So, have you ever felt like you're just stuck on a language learning treadmill?
Hmm.
You're putting in the hours, you're listening to things, watching videos, all the stuff you're supposed to do.
Right, ticking all the boxes.
Exactly. But then, when it actually comes time to speak, your mind just, well, it goes blank.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of working hard but not getting anywhere.
Yeah. And you start wondering, like, is this even working? Am I ever going to feel fluent?
Well, if that sounds familiar to you listening, please know you are definitely not alone. That sense of slow, almost invisible progress, it's incredibly common.
And the source material we're diving into today, it offers this really powerful, maybe even a bit counterintuitive take on that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that just because progress doesn't feel fast, well, that doesn't mean it's not
I
happening.
love the analogy it
It's
uses.
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Learning English is like watching a sunrise. You sit there in the dark doing the work, wondering.
When's the light gonna come? Oh.
Right. And then slowly, almost without you even noticing it, everything just starts to glow.
Yep.
The learning, the growth, it's happening in those quiet bits.
Exactly. And that's really our mission today, isn't it? To dive deep into this source, unpack its core message. Because it really does challenge some, conventional wisdom about language learning,
It definitely does.
suggesting that maybe the single most powerful skill you need, the one that sort of underpins everything else, it's listening.
Listening first.
Interesting.
So we're going to explore why it argues this, pull out, I think it's 5 practical shifts it suggests, and hopefully give you a fresh lens on your own journey.
Okay, let's get into it. The central argument, the foundation here, is pretty bold. Fluency, it says, always starts with the ear, not the mouth.
Right. And the reasoning behind it is fascinating. The source basically argues you just can't speak fluently what you haven't first truly deeply heard.
You can't output what you haven't input,
Mm.
essentially. Precisely. It makes this comparison like trying to speak a language well without enough listening. It's like trying to compose music having never really heard a melody.
Ah, okay. You're just guessing at the tune.
You're guessing, you're forcing it, and that just leads straight to frustration, feeling stuck.
That makes intuitive sense, actually. I mean, just think about how babies learn language.
Mm-hmm. The classic example.
They spend months, right, months just listening, absorbing patterns, sounds, the rhythm, the tone of everything around them.
They're not speaking for ages, and they're certainly not, hitting the grammar books.
Definitely not conjugating verbs.
They speak because they've heard it all thousands of times. It's absorbed, it's internalized. But adult learners, well, the source observes we often rush that part,
Yeah, we get impatient. We want to speak now.
which is totally understandable. But the source argues that skipping or rushing that deep listening phase, that's exactly why fluency feels like such a struggle later on.
Like trying to build the second floor before the foundation's really set.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So, okay, if this foundational listening is so crucial, how do we actually do it well? The source doesn't just leave us there, right? It offers these 5 shifts.
5 key shifts in how we approach listening. And the first one is listen in layers.
Layers, okay.
Yeah, and this tackles a really common problem, treating listening like it's a test.
Oh, I know this one. Play the audio once, try to catch every single word.
And feel like a failure if you miss anything.
Yep, defeated, give up.
Yep.
Been there.
We all have, but real growth-focused listening, according to this source, isn't about getting 100% on the first go. It's about having a different purpose each time you listen to the same piece of audio.
So break it down. One clip, but listen multiple times with different goals.
Exactly. 3 layers, 3 passes. Layer 1, just listen for the gist.
The big picture.
The big picture. What's the overall topic? The mood. The main idea. Don't pause. Don't stress about words you miss. Just let it wash over you. That's a phrase the source uses.
Let it wash over you. I like that. Just absorb the flow.
Right. This first pass trains your brain to kind of handle the overall landscape. Then, layer 2. Listen again, but this time, focus on the structure.
How it's built.
How the sentences are built, yeah. What tenses are they using? Notice word order, linking phrases. What's the rhythm, the intonation pattern? You're listening to how the language works, not just for the meaning.
Okay, so first meaning, then mechanics, kind of. What's layer 3?
Layer 3 gets into the details. Listen again, maybe slower this time. Pay attention to specifics. Word choice. The emotion behind the words. Subtle shifts in tone.
Like, did their voice go up at the end? Did they sound annoyed or excited or...
Exactly. Curious, sarcastic, tired, all those nuances. This trains your ear for the feeling the language carries, which is so key for natural communication.
What's powerful there is you're not just hitting repeat. You're actively training your brain to listen differently each time.
You got it, picking up different levels of information from the same source. The outcome is you learn to process the complexity, meaning, structure, feeling, the music of the language.
Moving beyond just translating words in your head.
That's the goal. That multi-layered understanding is what the source says true fluency is built on.
Okay, so ears are getting tuned up with layered listening. Now, the instinct is often to jump right into speaking, right? To try and copy what you heard.
Mm-hmm. The mimic stage.
But the source has another interesting twist here. Shift 2. Shadow with silence first.
Yeah, it points out that when learners jump straight into mimicking, and that's another vocabulary word the source uses, mimic, just copying, they can sometimes sound a bit robotic.
A bit unnatural, yeah. Even the words are right.
Right, because maybe they're copying the sounds but not fully internalizing the feel, the natural rhythm.
Shadowing itself, listening and repeating is pretty common advice. So the silence part is the key addition here.
That's the novel part. Deliberately giving yourself a beat. A moment of silence after you hear something, before you repeat it.
Like letting it sink in.
Exactly. Think about learning a song. You don't just belt it out perfectly the first time, right?
Definitely not. Listen, absorb the melody, the rhythm. Maybe hum it first.
You let it get into your system. So with English, the idea is play a sentence, pause it, and instead of rushing to copy, just sit with it. Let the sound and rhythm echo in your mind. Feel the cadence.
Feel the rhythm before you try to produce it.
Yes. And the source argues this works best building on that layered listening. You already have the meaning and structure, now you're adding the feel. That silence isn't empty space, it's processing time. Your brain is mapping the sound.
So it's less about just copying sound and more about letting your brain kind of prepare to dance with the rhythm before you speak.
What a great way to put it. Prepare to dance with the rhythm. The source really emphasizes this for developing natural speech, not just, memorized phrases, shadowing's good, but grounding it in that felt understanding, using that silence. That's apparently key for authentic production.
Okay, these are powerful techniques. Layered listening, shadowing with silence. But, as the source rightly says, none of this works if you only do it sometimes.
Consistency is king. Which brings us to shift number 3. Create a daily listening ritual.
Ritual. That sounds more serious than just habit.
It is. The source frames it as more than just an activity you try to squeeze in. A ritual is something you protect, something that holds meaning for you. A dedicated window, however small, just for your growth. No compromises.
And there's that anecdote in the source about this, isn't there? A small but really firm promise.
Yes, a promise to oneself. No matter what happens today, busy, tired, whatever, I will give just 15 minutes to English listening. And crucially, it was focused listening.
Not while scrolling Instagram or cooking dinner.
Right, not multitasking. That small protected time became an anchor. That's another one of those great vocabulary words from the source, seeing your practice as this steady, grounding thing.
And 15 minutes isn't actually that long. It's not about hours and hours.
Not at all. The source really stresses frequency over duration. Consistency is the magic. Even 10 minutes daily, maybe woven into something you already do, brushing teeth, making coffee, walking, that consistent exposure shapes your brain.
It's the daily rhythm that builds the fluency rhythm.
Ritual brings rhythm, rhythm brings fluency. Yeah, it reframes it nicely, doesn't it? Less of a chore, more of a meaningful practice.
So the advice is, find your moment, protect it, make listening your quiet daily thing, your anchor.
And once you start building that ritual, the next question naturally arises. Okay, what do I listen to? There's just so much stuff out there.
Oh yeah, information overload is real. Podcasts, YouTube, news, audiobooks. It's endless. It can completely paralyze you. That's another vocabulary word the source highlights, right? Too many options just stop you cold.
Exactly. And while having all that content is amazing in theory, the source argues that trying to consume everything, it actually hinders your progress.
How so?
Well, you end up opening 10 things, listening for 30 seconds, getting distracted, finishing nothing, jumping between accents, styles, topics.
And just feeling totally overwhelmed. Another key word there. Like there's just too much to possibly handle. You feel busy, but you're not actually learning deeply.
Precisely. Content overload starves your focus. It doesn't feed growth. So the solution isn't more, it's better. Choose better. Which leads to shift 4. Curate with intention.
Curate, like a museum curator carefully selecting pieces.
Exactly. Carefully choose and organize what you focus on. Pick just one or two sources, a podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever, that you genuinely enjoy, that you feel comfortable with, and that you can return to again and again without it feeling like pressure.
But wait, won't I get bored? Don't I need variety to learn different things? That feels a bit counterintuitive.
It does feel counterintuitive. It's a really valid question. But the perspective here is that initially, depth beats breadth. Repetition with material you understand and enjoy builds fluency more effectively than just skimming the surface of endless new things.
Okay.
Think of the garden analogy the source uses. You can't water every plant in the world and expect them all to flourish. But if you focus your care on just a few, those ones will bloom.
Go deep before you go wide, at least at the start.
That's the idea. Familiarity is actually powerful. When you return to a source you like, your brain relaxes a bit. It starts recognizing the speaker's rhythm, their common phrases, their personality even.
Instead of constantly adjusting to a new voice, a new style.
Right. You build a home base for your listening, a safe zone where your brain can relax and really start integrating the language, not just decoding it.
Okay, that makes sense. Build the foundation with curated content, lock in the daily ritual. But you mentioned earlier fluency doesn't live in a bubble. How does that fit with curating just one or two sources? Seems like a contradiction.
Excellent question. And it's not a contradiction, it's about phases, stages of growth.
Ah, okay.
According to the source, first you need that consistency, that safety net of familiar voices and styles. That helps your brain build the core rhythm and understanding. That's the curation phase.
Phase 1, build the base.
Right. Then, once that foundation feels strong, once your ear is comfortable in its home base, then yes, absolutely, it's time to stretch, time to grow beyond your bubble. That's another great phrase from the source.
Go outside the comfort zone. So curation first, then diversification.
Exactly. The source shares that story, remember, about trying to watch an unscripted interview between two comedians.
Oh yeah, the messy one. Laughing, interrupting, mumbling.
Talking over each other, sarcasm, inside jokes. And the listener in the story understood almost nothing at first because it was so different from the clean audio they were used to.
Because real, everyday English is messy. It's not always a perfectly clear news report.
It really isn't. Real-world English is full of spontaneous chat, arguments, laughter, whispers, emotion, pauses, overlaps, all of it. If you only ever listen to, say, carefully scripted content, your ears stay safe inside that bubble. But fluency needs to handle the real world.
So the fifth shift is about intentionally stepping into that messiness once you're ready.
Yes. Shift 5. Listen to a live debate. Once you have your anchor, your curated base, start consciously exploring. Try a casual vlog, listen to a live debate, tune into a comedy podcast, watch an emotional speech.
Like cross-training at the gym.
Perfect analogy. The source uses a gym comparison too. You start with controlled movements, maybe lighter weights, that's your curated content. But to get truly strong and adaptable, you need to challenge your balance, your speed, your flexibility. That's listening to faster, messier, more varied, real-world English.
And the goal isn't immediate perfect understanding in those challenging situations.
Absolutely not. It's about expanding your ear's range, teaching your brain that English isn't one size fits all, another key phrase, meaning it doesn't always sound the same. It's about building the confidence that you can follow along, even when it's fast or imperfect.
Because the real world isn't going to slow down for you.
Exactly. But with this kind of training, this staged approach, maybe you won't need it to. Your ears become more adaptable.
Wow. That really shifts the focus from just passively consuming audio to actively, intentionally training your ear.
It does. And as we've been talking, we've naturally hit on those key vocabulary words the source uses to frame these ideas, like how people often underrate listening.
I think it's less important.
Yeah.
And feel impatient for speaking results.
Right. And how too much content can overwhelm and paralyze you.
So the answer is to curate your input. Choose carefully.
And make that listening time your daily anchor.
And when starting to speak, maybe don't just mimic, but use silence to feel the rhythm first.
Yeah.
And that initial listening layer. Just let it wash over you.
Exactly. And then, eventually, pushing yourself to grow beyond your bubble, trying different contexts, because English isn't one size fits all, those terms really capture the essence.
They really do.
Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, the core message from this source is really a fundamental shift in focus. It's saying that deep, intentional listening, training your ear with purpose is the absolute foundation for fluency.
We unpacked those 5 key shifts, listening in layers,
Shadowing with silence first.
creating that daily ritual,
Curating your input initially.
and then strategically listening across different contexts.
And it's encouraging, too. If you listening found yourself understanding more of this than maybe you expected or just connecting with these ideas.
The source would gently say, that is progress. That's the sunrise happening, fluency growing quietly in the background, even when it doesn't feel fast.
So keep showing up, keep listening. Even on those slow days, your ears are doing more work than you think.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, something the source makes you ponder. If fluency really does begin with the ear, as the source argues so strongly,
Yeah.
what does that imply about how much weight we usually give to speaking practice, especially early on? Is it possible that the quiet, internal work of listening is actually the most dynamic, most crucial part of the whole journey?
Even if it feels passive.
Hmm.
That's definitely something to think about as you continue on your own path.